Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League. I'm going to make the political decision to call this the Emerald Division because we have Emerald teams in front of us. Cosmic Genesis versus Average Joe's facing off here in week number 2. Cannot be happier to be here alongside my good friend Alls, just talking to them about dating apps and the like. You know, it's a fun time to bond. But now we got League of Legends to cast, my man.
Yeah, and this is certainly going to be an interesting match. We do have the Ixtal division in front of us today, and Cosmic Genesis came out swinging last week with a clean 2-0, whereas the Average Joes fell to the bottom of the standings with a 0-2 loss. This is a fairly short season here, Miyarko, so needing to get those wins in early and get some positions in the standings, we're going to need to see quite a bit from the Average Joes in this match, especially up against one of the teams that did come out with a win. We don't have much time to talk about this, though, because the teams are in draft, and they have rushed through this ban phase.
Already, Jarvan IV picked up by Cosmic Genesis on blue side. Very interesting to see such high priority placed on this champion. Sure, it is good. Is it first pick good? That's the real question at hand, as Average Joes in response are able to get themselves not only a Kaisa, but a good poppy consideration here already, trying to turn the tables on the likes of that Jarvan that could just get slammed into their own walls.
Yeah, I do think the Jarvan is absolutely worth it here. It has so much early gank pressure that you can really take these lanes that would otherwise be neutral or even ahead for the Average Joes and turn them on their heads. It allows you to get these late game scaling champions like the Ezreal, like the Ornn, a little bit of safety early. It allows you to pick stuff that otherwise wouldn't be on the table, and it makes it very difficult for the enemy jungler here, Average Argo, because you have to pick a champion that can match that. That may be the Poppy here, it may be something else, but either way, I think it's a great pick to force the hand of the Average Joes here.
Yep, Cosmic Genesis in general, picking up a lot of champions I like, just not in the order I was expecting. Ornn coming out, most likely to go in the top lane for Meddlesome Maxi, another fantastic selection, but typically you're going to be seeing a top laner picked within the second round of selections. Here, they're going to take it all the way in such an accelerated position that now the question is, what are you going to be seeing out of that support role? What is going to be going in the middle lane? We're going to have some bans to pinch out those pools, but first, let's talk about Average Joes as well, getting themselves not only that Kaisa and Poppy, as said before, but also a Gnar just immediately answering back and now kind of pushing off that counter pick out of that top lane role as well.
I'm okay with sending the Poppy into jungle. I'm not so sure about the Gnar here. Yeah, you're going to be able to harass the Ornn. Yeah, the Ornn's going to be down a little bit of gold. It's not going to be able to farm as effectively, but you're still going to get the items. You're still going to get the ornaments. And the ultimate, the Call of the Forge God, is so valuable in teamfights that you don't need much else. You have plenty of bulk here between the Ornn's natural tankiness and the Jarvan the Fourth, which is already going to be standing on the front lines. So I'm worried that the Gnar isn't going to provide enough utility unless they can be absolutely destructively dominant in this top lane. Which, given that Dom for Average Joes only has a 2-to-1 KDA on Gnar in solo queue, it doesn't ring very strong for me.
Yeah, for sure. I feel that if you're seeing the Ornn picked up on the enemy team, you, with counterpick potential, should just be snap slamming something along the lines of a Gwen. I would have loved to see that come out. Something that really benefits from the fact you get a relatively free lane versus the Ornn, so you're trying to scale up, or at the very least, get in under and get some kills versus Meddlesome Maxi. Neither of them are really the case here with the Gnar, so we'll see how that's going to fare. Do like the Rel quite a bit more, though, for Average Joes. The support coming all the way here on R4. Let's see how Cosmic Genesis is going to respond and round out their team composition.
Yeah, I would love some tank shred here coming out of the mid lane, because with the Poppy, with the Gnar, with the Rel, you've got a lot of tank stats. But Cosmic Genesis picking up the Alistar, we're just going to have a whole bunch of beefy guys running at each other and slamming into each other in these team fights. There's going to be a lot of pressure on these ADCs and mid laners to not make any mistakes in their positioning, or else they will be bouncy house till the end of time.
Vagar being hovered right now, like that consideration, and Team Cosmic Genesis will grab that. Really indexed towards the late game, as Real being such a defensive AD carry there in the bot lane is going to have a little bit of burden taken off of their shoulders to do damage because of the Vagar selection, but this does mean that the Jarvan will have to be very vigilant about how their mid laner is faring. If this Vagar falls behind and comes up short early, no pun intended, then average Joes, I think, will just be able to run over a lot of Team Cosmic Genesis as they're desperate looking for those ornaments to give them a little bit of a power boost late. Now, average Joes are going to see the fact that the Vagar got picked up, and they themselves are going to go for scaling over there, grabbing a Kassadin.
Oof, that is a very bold choice here. We haven't seen a bunch of Kassadin in competitive play recently. I saw the Cassiopeia hover, which I would have loved here. Cassiopeia has great tank shred, has the ability to get around fights very easily with the scaling mobility from the passive. Kassadin, though, with the Rift Rock, can avoid plenty of this CC, but I worry that if J4 can make use of those early ganks and really put this Kassadin behind, it's going to allow Vigar to scale so freely that the average Joes aren't going to have much of a chance here.
Yeah, I gotta say, Alls, I'm not a big fan of either of the teams here, but at the same time, I'm looking less for innate responsiveness and a deep knowledge of the current meta. I'm looking more for both of these teams just kind of playing towards what they specialize in. If this is in fact Average Joe's going for comfort off this Kassadin, if Team Cosmic Genesis is very good at playing that roaming Alistar in the bot lane, and they are very happy to get that Jarvan early for Donnie because it is their OTP, sure, go for it. But what I'm a little bit worried about is that with these kinds of mismatches we're seeing, or we're seeing very similar themes between some of these pickups, that these two teams are really just going to have to move out of the draft as a means by which to win the game. And they're really just going to be looking to outperform one another within the Rift itself, which is oftentimes a tall task. And I would have liked to see a little bit more grubbing for every advantage they could get early on in this series.
That's fair. However, many of these players do have fairly small champion pools. They have one, maybe two champions that they play super commonly and with super good win rates. For example, the top laner of Cosmic Genesis has 5 champions that they've played over 20 times in this season. Only one of them has a win rate above 55%,
Hmm.
which makes it a little bit difficult to have a deep champion pool here. You're kind of locked into a very small number of picks that will be effective. So I do think that while you have absolutely the right of it, that these players could definitely be doing more with draft, this is still Emerald. This isn't
Yep.
the top tier of play. We're not in Diamond or Master tier play where people are expected, required even, to know every single champion at least well enough to be able to pilot it in a game. So it does come down to comfort here. And in terms of comfort and ease of execution, I think that Cosmic Genesis just barely comes out on top.
Overall, their team, I think, also is hitting upon what little thematics we are seeing in this draft phase. A lot of scaling on their side. Always a big fan of the Ornn, because oftentimes for a champion that we're really orienting as something that comes alive in the late game, it actually does have a very stable laning phase. And really, there's not a whole lot of kill pressure on average Joe's side in some of these core lanes. If you want to deal with the Kassadin early, you got to make sure that they are super far behind. But how do you do that when you're a Vagar? Well, you have the Jarvan come in and interfere. On the other side, though, how is Kassadin going to deal with this Vagar, with Poppy being one of the champions that, while typically very good at running down the enemy, can't really deal with Vagar Cage the way that something with a bit more mobility can?
Yeah, we're going to need to see plenty of roams here coming out of the average Joe support on this rel. Need to use some interesting positioning, some crash downs over the wall, maybe a hex flash in to try and either bait out or surprise Jack here so that the cage can't be dropped effectively. If they can get those roams off, or if they can find some unusual gank angles from the Poppy to try and make this work, they can get Hexify ahead. It's, as we said earlier, and as you mentioned, it's just not an easy.
All right. Well, we do have the lines in the sand drawn now. We got about 2.5 minutes to go before the Spectre delay is over. And also, I think you got a mic to fix. So I think it's probably best we throw it over to a quick break. And when we return, it is going to be time for game number 1 between Cosmic Genesis and Average Joe's here in week 2 of the Blue Otter League. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League Platinum slash Emerald Division. We got Cosmic Genesis on blue taking on Average Joes.
30
And we've
seconds
already talked
until
at length
ring
about
start.
this draft. I've been kind of down on it in general, but certainly looking forward to this late game. Got some pretty crazy plays in Potentia here. Critical Nugs on that Kaisa, something to watch. And Hexify also trying to scale up on the Cassidon, but they do have to contend with the might of some Maxi on the Ornn and Jake on this Veigar. So let's see exactly what's going to happen here. Classic 5-point for the two teams to start us off here in game number 1.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. We have a Rel, we have an Alistair, and we don't have any fun level 1s. Come on. Where is the action? Where is the fun? This is game 1. You guys can have a little bit of ridiculousness, and it's not going to hurt your chances of winning the series.
Yeah,
Necessarily.
I don't necessarily think that Alistar is a great invader. You have to go either for your W or your Q, and with your W, you're just kind of knocking someone back to safety. With your Q, you don't have really the range to go for the engage, so you're really looking at Crazy Dog. But I mean, at the same time, you have a Cassidon in the mid lane. Not a whole lot of kill pressure, to be honest. Even if someone is overextended, maybe at best you get a flash, and it's a bit of a coin flip. So it makes sense that both of these teams are playing pretty reserved early on. Although that being said, Veigar definitely trying to get control of this mid wave as we just start things off, already walking pretty far forward, exploiting the range advantage in this matchup.
Yeah, very happy to see that Veigar. Not necessarily an early duelist, but into a Cassidon should be a-okay. Plus, any poke here just makes it easier for Donnie once they hit that level 3 to start looking for the fun angle that only a Jarvan or a Zac can really find here to get in onto Hexify and really make this Cassidon's life hell.
Across the board, things are looking about as expected. Middlesome Maxi trying what they can to try to continue to control this top wave. Actually, they have a little bit of a push advantage, surprising versus Gnar, who actually has range on their side. But yeah, it makes sense that also XMB and Archer are going to have to wait for another wave before they can really put the gas on versus the likes of a Rel Kaisa. Alistar, as I said before, basically a caster minion up until we hit level 3, and even then, it's still pretty dicey to go in without your stats all about you, so something to watch out for sure. Meddlesome Maxi, by the way, back up here in the top lane. It's kind of slobber knocking this poor Gnar early.
Yeah, forget what I said in draft about the Ornn just kind of losing this lane gracefully. They are absolutely dominant right now, and with Dom having just hit that Mega Gnar state, there's really not going to be much that they can do to start taking control of this for a while, unless they can get some jungle help. Problem is, Argo's on the bot side over here trying to float and protect Critical Nugs and Crazy Dog from Donnie, who's in the area as well. This top lane is just going to be a disaster.
Yeah, and this is what we were worrying about already. Meddlesome Maxi not exactly going to have the easiest time as Ornn, but if they're able to provide this much power this early into the game, the question is, what exactly is Dom going to be doing come mid-game once the Ornn starts scaling up? I really do think we need to see more dominance out of the team in red. And right now, Average Joes are not providing that, particularly in the top lane. That being said, good control over bot side of the map means it's a bit difficult for Donnie to get down there, but now they're trying to move on in versus Hexify, who flashes to get out of the way of Jack's cage.
Yeah, good flash there. However, that's a 5-minute cooldown. The cage, that's 20 seconds. The flag and drag, that's about 50. So it's going to be very easy for Donnie to go take this top Scuttle Crab, go back in, and immediately right back on Hexify again and again and again until this lane is done. However, Argo has the same idea, is trying to float here, is trying to make Jack to roam out of this lane, and will do so. You can see on the minimap, forced up into that river.
Still no flash burn, though. Jack does have Donnie at their back, so it's really not that painful for Cosmic Genesis. They're going to lose out on a little bit of CS here, but the more time that Argo is spending in this lane, the more time that is splitting the XP with Hexify, and I actually don't think this helps the Cassidon all that much. Top lane, we got a little bit of action. Meddlesome Maxi may have finally bit off a bit more than they could chew. They're going to have to flash back away from the Mega Gnar after getting stunned up, and Dom is starting to bare their fangs, as it were. XMB with a really good flash engage, gets the knockup, gets the knockback as well. Critical Nugs in a little bit of trouble, has to flash to safety, but first blood topside in favor of Average Joes, although Donnie will clean it back up to make it a 1-for-1.
That was so greedy from Maxi there. You had your jungler in the area. Just leave it to them. There was plenty of damage on that Jade for to take care of Gnar, but instead, it's the flash from Maxi. It's the flash force from Donnie. Yeah, you got Dom's flash. That's so expensive now. It's going to make it harder for Donnie to affect other lanes. Feels like such a waste and such an overreach from a top laner that up until now had been playing quite well.
Yeah, with that lane not really on lock as much as you would expect, they are able to benefit from Donnie fixing the wave state. But while this is all happening, the fact that Average Joe's is also asserting themselves really nicely in the bot lane means that this is going to be a very easy first dragon claimed up. And from there, they're getting off to a pretty decent start. They're down about 300 gold right now, 400 gold versus Cosmic Genesis. But still, with a Cassidy on your team, as long as you ensure that the bleeding is not coming in from the mid lane, and you have Critical Nugs and Crazy Dog in a position where the Rel could justifiably roam alls, this is still looking pretty solid for them.
Yeah, absolutely. They weathered the early storm. Donnie needed to be a little bit more efficient and intelligent. However, it's not over. The Captain is level 6, but that's not the end of the world. The Gnar has a couple of kills under their belt, but that's not the end of the world. There's still a window here, but they need to take advantage of it. You cannot let this game go long without finding some small advantage.
Yeah, next place that I want to see attention put by Cosmic Genesis is certainly there in the mid lane. They know the Hexify still does not have that flash available, and if Donnie can pay another visit, set something up, maybe even go for a tower dive, at the very least, you could probably pick up some plates on Jake, who is finding themselves in a position where, yeah, they're doing perfectly fine on the CS front. They're out to about a 10 CS lead, but I want there to be even more dominance to see Cosmic Genesis make their mark, and we're seeing it right here, right now. Primordial Burst does enough to claim that kill, but Meddlesome Maxi once again in trouble, trying to get away, actually taking the 1v2, but unfortunately Call of the Forge God is not enough CC, and Argo will suffocate the Ornn. Another 1-for-1 across the map.
I think takes the 2v1 is a little bit aggressive there from Maxi. That was absolutely a decision of, I can't get out of this, I just have to try and clean up something on the way out. Unfortunately, right now, the Brutal Procs just not nearly enough. Couldn't make it work, but put up a decent fight. Tried their best. Will have to use the TP. Is now down quite a bit of gold in this top lane. About 400. That means that the fully completed Sheen, the fully completed Merc Tread on Dom, any chance that Maxi had of continuing their early game dominance are well and truly flushed at this point.
Yeah, Maxi now is just in that classic Ornn position where you did fall behind early, and therefore you're going to have to sit a little bit further back, bounce waves when you can, but watch out for Dom. That being said, the CS advantage is still there for the top laner for Cosmic Genesis, something to look out for. If Dom isn't able to make great strides to not only be advantaged in terms of kills, but also in terms of CS, this is still not backbreaking. Cosmic Genesis perfectly happy with how this is going. It's also just a matter of figuring out how the stance of priority is going to go, with Donnie spending a little bit more time up here on the top side than I was expecting. If Ornn does want to posture aggressively, now's the time to do it, so perhaps Blue Squad could rotate over and get themselves a Rift Herald. But first, gotta talk about some action on the bot side. Crazy Dog getting the raw end of that trade, but Critical Nug still at full health means that there's really not that much threat on the Average Joes. And now look at this, Keeper's Verdict activated. Donnie gonna trade off with Jack, jumping over the wall and using their ultimate. That almost led to a full turnaround, but Average Joes are able to make it to safety off the back of yet another flash from Hexify.
Yeah, that's a great even trade there. Great job from Donnie as well to force so much to be burned from the Average Joe side. And I believe we got the copy flash as well. So this will not quite make it as difficult as it is for the Jarvan when the flash is down, but the Hex Flash does require more time, does give these laners a bit more of a chance to respond. It's a good trade, and getting the Rift Herald on top of this gives the chance to affect other lanes. I would like to see this come down to Archer here, perhaps. Get at least a little bit of pressure, even if you're not dropping the Rift Herald, because we've seen this bot lane of the Ezreal and Alistar is taking good trades. They are able to burst out the Rel without Kai'Sa being able to do anything, so just a little bit of pressure could be able to flip this seesaw entirely in favor of Crazy Genesis. They just have to actually pull the trigger.
Well, it's actually Argo that's going to be coming down here first. Crazy Dog going to use this as a means by which to try to get on top of XMB. Archer maybe in a little bit of trouble, but it's actually the Alistar that is going to be chain CC'd. There comes the ultimate, but Magnet Storm is locking up this Alistar. Good move trying to get Crazy Dog under tower. Now the Railcan frontline, and that is going to be Cosmic Genesis saving their own bacon and keeping hopes alive down bot.
Fight is not over yet. Donnie is in the area. Yeah, Hexify is roaming down, but this average Joe's team needs to be very careful that they don't overstep and draw this J4 further in. There's no vision. They don't know that he's there. With Critical Nugs and Crazy Dog walking so far up, they may have just brought themselves directly into a trap.
Oh, this is such a smart setup. Archer CC'd under tower, but doesn't even matter. 2 flashes already burned. Crazy Dog locked up. They're going to die to the True Shot Barrage. And here comes the Call of the Forge God top side. Metals and Max is going to be able to get the knockup. Dom doesn't have the rage stacks. They've already used Mega Gnar, and now they're going to be flashed upon. Cosmic Genesis with 2 for nothing across the map.
Beautiful flash brittle proc there by Maxi to be able to take that kill. And great job by Archer as well, aware of his jungler in the area, knew exactly what he needed to do to bring in the bot lane of Average Joe's, let Donnie do the work. And now they get a Drake on top of that. They've got Fed members all across the map. There's still plenty for Average Joe's to do to take this game, but the job has gotten just a bit harder now.
Well, XMB is going to find themselves in yet another sticky situation with the CC coming from Crazy Dog, but Rel might be too deep. That's going to be the event horizon stunning them, and Jack has already picked up that kill. Critical Nugs is going to engage their ultimate, trying to get on in and find Critical Mass versus Cosmic Genesis, but they've been struggling to find a kill. Finally, one will go down, but the Veigar has picked up a triple in return, and Cosmic Genesis are so happy about how that went. Full control over this bot side river, and now they have a super fed mid laner.
Stacks on stacks, Nyarko. 4 kills on this Veigar, all the gold now suddenly in the pockets of the tiny Yordle mage. This is what you needed to see Genesis do. You needed to see them hit the score points. But Jack, maybe giving over a 700 gold shut down to the Gnar.
Smart stun. I don't think it's enough. Even with Donnie here, this is going to be the Veigar shut down in an instant by a great roam out of Dom. Now, Metals and Maxi will just be able to hammer away at this tier 1 tower in the top side of the map. Argo is going to have to try to contend with the Forge God right now, but down 3 levels, it's definitely going to be a tough sell, especially with Maxi having those dashes that I think just frankly shouldn't have. Dom is going to cover, but Donnie is walking right alongside them. Hexify is looking to be the difference maker for Average Joe's, but Argo is already being taken low. Here comes the Cataclysm. Metals and Maxi able to pick that up, but now Donnie finds themselves in a 2-for-1 as the Ornn falls. Teleport being channeled. Jack comes back up and will use their baby cage to repel the advances of Average Joe's.
Ooh, Dom have to be counting their lucky stars. They're just a few pixels outside of that cage. If that had hit, that would have almost certainly been a free kill. The full health Jack there to rotate through those spells and slam down the Mini-Gnar. As it is, with the Ritual being sent out there, they're gonna put the Jack's pocket, who has caught Dom here. The bounce might be enough to get Dom out, but still, look at the damage that those Baleful Strikes are just chunking through Dom's health bar here.
Yeah, and they still have their Primordial Burst available, so Argo has to be careful about going this aggressive. Flash forced out of the Poppy, but Hexify is coming around on the flanky sploinky of a lifetime, and if they can kill this Veigar early in this play, Donnie is soon to fall as well. A teleport being channeled, but this is way too overeager by Meddlesome Maxis that find themselves versus 3 Red Squad members. Knock will come down, Argo will fall, but Donnie and Meddlesome Maxi are knocked back by the Mega Gnar form, and it looks like Dom will be able to kite this out. Hexify gonna hand off the aggro. Maxi unable to get on top of their top lane partner, and Average Joe's will come out swinging and bringing the game right back.
Look, Nyarko, I'm all in favor of taking fights when you're ahead, but you still have to play intelligently, and there was no reason for Jack and Donnie to be taking that fight. You didn't have eyes on Hexify. You knew that Argo and Dom still had lockdown in pocket. Jack has the crown of the Shattered Queen, but when that is down, this Veigar is squishy. You cannot take those fights if you want to win this game cleanly. And now, back to 99, the gold difference, only 2,000. And suddenly, this Gnar has 5 kills, has tons of gold in pocket in the same way Jack did. just a few minutes ago. You cannot be making these mistakes.
Yep, Dom has jumped out to the richest person on the planet right now, and Cosmic Genesis definitely has to be aware of the fact that, this Gnar, when so far ahead, can become that two tips terror, either going for those long range shots, peppering people with boomerangs, and then moving in, getting close, being that front line with the Mega Gnar form. It's a very worrisome situation, and you really have to start being smarter in how you position and how you play, particularly with champions as vulnerable as Veigar is. We're seeing a little bit of a lane swap coming through just in time for Cosmic Genesis to swoop in to try to get a second Rift Herald. Meddlesome Maxi is going to be taking over the reins of the bot lane versus Critical Nugs and Crazy Dog. And I'm a little bit surprised that Rel isn't just straight up leaving this lane already. Looks like the reason why they can't is because Critical Nugs is disrespecting the range on that Ornn right there, taking a rough trade.
Yeah, that was no damage back into Maxi there in exchange for half the health of the Kai'Sa. Good grief, Nyarko. Sure, Maxi is pretty far behind compared to their laner, but when you look at the Kai'Sa, she does not have enough stats to stand up to the Ram God at this point. Finally, we do see Crazy Dog roaming, but it comes at the cost of Critical Numbers having to back, so Meddlesome Maxi going to be able to force this wave in. That's going to be gold not going into the pocket of Critical Nugs, whereas Archer is still picking up waves. Gonna put this Ezreal a little bit further ahead by comparison. Just small macro moves that are a little bit better from Genesis here. As Dom really wanted that. Oh boy.
Yeah, Dom clearly about to pop in terms of their rage stacks, get CC'd, and that seems to be enough for Cosmic Genesis to want to walk forward. Now they're pivoting back over to try to contest this dragon. We so far have a 1-to-1 split on that front, and I think Cosmic Genesis certainly want to start forging that as a win condition. XMB gonna walk forward, trying to find a way to get Argo locked up. Eventually can only really get the pulverized down, and now that's a cooldown that Alistar definitely will need before they could go for the re-engage. Here comes the push forward. Maxi trying to do all that they can to set up at the call of the Forge God. Here comes the Cataclysm, and that's a 4-man knockup deep inside of the choke point. Archer is going to unleash their true shot barrage. Critical Nugs trying to answer back, will be able to pick up a kill, but Jack is triumphant once again. Another triple kill for the mini mage in the mid lane, and Cosmic Genesis win the fight.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff there. The 4-man ultimate from the Ornn. Ultimate over top from the Jarvan, and just beautiful positioning from Jack and Archer, staying just far enough out of reach they could not be hit, while still being close enough that Average Joe's labored under the delusion that they could get onto the back line there. That is a great way to play this team fight, and while I haven't been happy with the decision making from Team Cosmic Genesis in some of these fights, finally playing it perfectly, using the macro advantages that they had created and the control that they had over that bot river to take a beautiful fight, pick up another dragon, now just 2 away from this soul. It is another potential win condition here, and the right things are going, one that they can get before Hexify reaches critical mass.
And I don't really know how Shelly got a second charge in the bot lane, but it certainly did. And when you look at that tower count, that is very painful for Average Joes to have to deal with. They're already down 3-0, and we are on the cusp of a Baron Nashor spawn. Without the map control, Average Joes could be in a position where they're just simply unable to walk up towards rivers anymore.
And take a look at the minimap. It's not that these turrets are close and have just all fallen in favor of Genesis. No, the turrets on Genesis' side are all full health or close to it. This is just lane control having been done better throughout the early and mid game, so that Average Joes have not been able to really get any bricks close to falling. Unless we see a completely dominant team fight from Average Joes, they're not going to be able to pick up any of that standing gold for a good long while yet.
Yeah, and now the question is, where is Hexify going to be accessing gold from? Because look at how dangerous it is to walk up anywhere close to XMB and company. This is Crazy Dog called out inside of the pixel bush. Critical Nug realizes they cannot save their support. They're just going to book it behind the tier 2 tower. Crazy Dog trying to get away, but they're a rel. They don't got the movement speed. Donnie picking that kill up, and now it's time to besiege this tier 2 tower in the mid lane.
Attempt, more like success here, Nyarko. That thing is melted. Just absolutely destroyed by the power of mages, and a very, very happy Archer sitting at 1-0-5, has 2 fully completed items. And with this blue squad just wandering over to the purple worm, I I think that we are going to be having some Nasher for breakfast here, Narco.
Yeah, this is basically the nail in the coffin. Average Joe's needs to try to figure out an angle into the pit. They do have Argo with a flash available. They're going to be looking to approach over the wall and go for the steal. Here comes the Keeper's Verdict. Will get a knock away, but it's not onto the right members. There's still a chance at them going to be able to pick up this Baron Nash, and they will do it by killing the Poppy before they even get within smite range. Donnie gets back in time, but this is one of the situations where you actually can't just knock away the jungler because they're just going to stop aggroing the Baron in response. You can't burst it yourself because you're a Poppy, and you're going to get melted as soon as you hop over the wall.
Yeah, that was well done by Genesis here. I just have to wonder, XMB had ultimate. There was no reason for XMB to die there and take away a Baron from this squad. Maxi might be in trouble as well, forcing to flash away using the Call of the Forge God, but with the Magnet Storm, I don't think the Ornn is getting away. This is two Barons that did not need to go down for Genesis, that are just disappearing off the map.
Yeah, I think that XMV's buff isn't really super consequential for Cosmic Genesis' side because hopefully the Alistar is not going to be solo pushing a wave, but you don't want Meddlesome Maxi to be able to split the forces across the map, and now it looks like Cosmic Genesis, with only 3 Baron buffs still available, probably are just going to have to Death Ball. I would assume that the angle is to go through mid, cause Average Joes to cluster around their tier 3 to prevent the in-hit from being taken, and then as the wave on top slowly begins to push out away from Cosmic Genesis side, they are going to then rotate up there to grab themselves a tier 2 at the very least.
Yeah, they still have a small window to take a very blue-favored fight here. This Azadin choosing to go Rod of Ages still has not fully stacked. Still has a few seconds left until that hits 10 stacks. So if they force a fight before that level up comes through, they're going to be in great shape. However, they do have to pull that trigger fairly soon. They've got the numbers here in the mid lane. It looks like Average wants to force the fight.
Yeah, but the thing is, now that's a Poppy using Audacious Charge onto Veigar without a wall nearby. They're able to get to safety, blow up the Kassadin. Dom is going to wade into the melee. They get a good knockback, but it's not enough. Meddlesome Maxi is going to redeem themselves with a big setup, and now this is open season in the mid lane for Cosmic Genesis. Sure, Keeper's Verdict lands on 3 members, but they got another wave to play off of, and these Baron buffs aren't going anywhere. A 3-for-0, and the base is about to be cracked open.
Yeah, if anything, you say thanks for the exit with that Keeper's Verdict. Got all 3 of those members of Cosmic Genesis out of this fight for nothing.
Oh, they're just going to end.
The minions marching in, they can just end the game absolutely here. The first
yeah,
is going to go down very fast. Argo is gone.
Yeah, and that's it. Full-on ace setup. Hexify's back up, but there's nothing they can do versus this Death Ball. And look at this artillery fire coming in the form of the Call of the Forge God to confirm Cosmic Genesis going 1-0 so far in the series.
Look, Nyarko, that was not the cleanest game from Cosmic Genesis. They made plenty of mistakes that could be taken advantage of moving it forward here from the Average Joes. However, perfect doesn't have to be the enemy of good enough. And they were better than average this game.
Definitely the case. Cosmic Genesis absolutely popping off. A few mistakes here and there, but we expect that out of people here in our Emerald/Platinum League. At the end of the day, it's about development. And so early on in the season, having a 23-minute game under your belt, I think proves that you know how to end games when you're ahead. And it seems like Cosmic Genesis is very good at getting ahead.
Yeah, they did a great job of getting ahead, and they did a good job of shutting down the champions that wanted to scale. We talked a lot about Hexify needing to hit those breakpoints on the Kassadin. Did 1/3 of the damage of Veigar. That is 6,000 damage over the course of a 23-minute game. And, well, that makes sense. You know, it's a Kassadin. It hasn't scaled. That makes sense. Still, you cannot have that low damage and expect to win a game. So many of the kills that they got were because of mistakes from the side of Genesis. It was not because of their own play. If they can take advantage of those mistakes better and let Hexify scale in a comp like this, they'll be better. If, on the other side, Genesis can clean up those mistakes, there is no way that the Average Joes can take game 2.
Average Joes will need to take game 2 in order to force the decider later on in this series. But right now, Cosmic Genesis certainly looks good. And let's see whether or not they're going to be able to make Lightning strike twice with the second round going in their favor. We're going to throw it over to a quick break. When we return, it'll be for the second draft of the night. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League Emerald League. We got Average Joe's versus Team Cosmic Genesis facing off for game number 2. Average Joe's side swapping over to blue as they were, in fact, defeated by Cosmic Genesis in game number 1. And now the question is all, what can they do with the side swap? What can they do with the new approach to draft?
Well, we commented in game one that this was a team that was a little bit hamstrung by the champion pools of their players. So we need to see, we will be seeing similar choices from them. However, just because the choices are similar doesn't mean they need to be entirely uncohesive. So perhaps from that limited pool, we can get something a little bit more well-rounded and complete here from this squad. In addition, we need to see them in game take much better advantage of the mistakes of Cosmic Genesis.
I think that's probably a good way to put it. There certainly were mistakes to exploit. Cosmic Genesis had a few funky little calls in there. I think one that stands out in my mind was Meddlesome Maxi teleporting to a play that was already dead and feeding another kill over to what eventually became the main hope out of Average Joe's, which was Dom there in the top lane. Watching out for plays like that, I think, could be huge. And I like the fact that they are going to answer back against their lack of tower taking in game number 1 and get a Ziggs now, probably setting up for critical nugs in the bot lane.
Yeah, this is fine. However, it gives over the favorite ADC of Archerd here with the Ashe. And this is an Ashe that has performed very well for Archerd in solo queue. So I'm a little bit concerned that giving over such high priority pick in exchange for the Ezreal is going to have negative effects unless we see much better and more efficient jungle proximity from Argo here towards the bot side of the map.
That's true. And this Nocturne, also a very novel pick coming out of Average Joe's. Not something you see a whole lot of, but answering against an Ashe, I think this is a pretty smart call, actually, without a whole lot of mobility, and with the fact that Ashe is most likely trying to initiate fights off of an Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Nocturne can kind of just dodge out of the way of that, or at least have someone else on their team tank it up, and then immediately blow up the squishy members of Cosmic Genesis. That being said, Gragas is a great space maker in return, so Red Squad still certainly have tools at their disposal.
Yeah, this is also a very early tipping of the hand with the Nocturne and Leona. These are champions that can still be very easily countered by picks in the Genesis champion pool with plenty of lockdown, with plenty of disengage. So, depending on how they decide to pick here for XMB, it could be very difficult for the average Joes to actually get on top of this Ashe. They might be able to get there, but they won't be able to do much while they're there. And Milio, with all of the disengage tools, with the ultimate to clear away the Leona stun from this Ashe, is going to make it incredibly difficult for them to do so.
Yeah, I do like Milio quite a bit. One of my favorite champions, but this is another juicy target for the Nocturne to target down. I've complained a few times about how hard enchanters are punished by Nocturne. It kind of feels like your goal during a team fight of positioning well, staying behind your carries, being there for them during moments in which they're getting engaged upon, kind of flies out the window against a champion that doesn't really care about positioning. At least in lower elo, there's so many times where Nocturne may even just sacrifice themselves to blow up something like Emilio, and maybe they're going to take two along with them. So that's a dynamic to watch out for. Something I'm personally a little bit worried about. We'll see whether or not Cosmic Genesis, who seem to really benefit from very clearly delineated front to backs, what they're going to do to be able to answer against that.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a little bit of a tone shift from this Cosmic Genesis team. However, the downside to Nocturne going on to Milio is that he's not going on to Ashe. And every second that you're not taking down the Ashe is a second that Ashe is pumping out damage into your team. So it's going to be a very difficult balancing act here for Argo, whether to go on the Milio and take them out of the fight, or whether to take the priority target of Archerd. Especially when you have a champion like Lissandra here for Jack, who will make so many very, very juicy targets, unable to run away, unable to do anything but sit there and take the arrows to the face on the
Yeah,
side of
that's
average Joes.
Yep, something to watch out for. Liking Lissandra as an initiator for Cosmic Genesis. The Gnar going to be returning to the top lane for Dom. And ooh, this Vex consideration is not something that came across my mind. It is a little bit more AP to go along with the Ziggs bot, but still justifiable because you have a Nocturne and Gnar on your team, and they're going to lock that in. We'll see how what Hexify is going to do with a champion that is notoriously good at dealing with dashes, so may be the stopgap that will be able to respond against the Gragas from Cosmic Genesis.
I do like this as well, specifically because it is some additional follow-in on the Nocturne. The Leona can get in a little bit with the Zenith Blade, the Gnar with the Hop. However, Vex with the ultimate is able to really follow along the same distance that Nocturne can with his ultimate. So if they play this right and engage intelligently, they can dogpile onto the backline and leave just a bunch of tanks and lockdown on the side of Genesis. However, there is now a Malphite on the table.
Ooh.
Malphite hurts regardless of who you are.
Yeah, this is kind of a juke. I was expecting this to actually be Gragas top after we saw everything kind of fall into place, but this makes a lot of sense. You're putting that into the jungle role, so Donnie will be able to bring those dashes and gap closers everywhere across the map. And Medelson Maxi is back in their comfort zone, playing one of these tanks that are guaranteed value in this game, regardless of what Dom does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe, and I will have to check here, but I do believe I have seen quite a few Malphites on Meddlesome Maxi here. So, or in their match history. So this is not a champion that Meddlesome is unfamiliar with. Admittedly, it's Malphite. You can first time this champion and still be the star of the game. But having a little bit of familiarity, knowing how you can really dominate a champion like Gnar, who new players would otherwise struggle with, is just an additional leg up that we already saw they could do in the early game on the Orange. So I'm excited to see what's coming out with the Malphite.
Yeah, a lot of different variables to play with on the table. I like the adaptation from both sides, but it does mean that therefore my expectations and my biases that were established through game number one are a little bit less relevant to this game. And so therefore, as a caster, not having something to talk about is obviously a heartbreak for me all. But yeah, what do you think is going to be happening, particularly in the bot lane? Because we saw such suffocating pressure from average Joes early on, although it didn't really lead to kills or anything like that. Now that they're on a Ziggs, what is the dynamic that the Leona is looking to play off of?
I think the Leona is here mostly as a defensive effort in the early game. The Leona will have much more value when we get to team fights or potentially as a roamer here because Ziggs not looking to go in, not looking to take those early aggressive hyperactive fights like most of the ADCs you see paired with Leona for lane dominance. So in the bot lane, until and unless we see Nocturne or Gragas come down there, there's not going to be a ton of action. Ashe Milio, they're going to struggle through the poke from the Ziggs, but I think they'll be able to respond in kind largely due to the volleys, and to a much lesser extent the Rangers' focus from Ashe to keep the health bars on Ziggs and Leona from staying too high. But again, overall, I don't think we're going to see a lot of action here until we see a Paranoia come through, until we see a Gragas, or potentially until we hit that 10-minute mark, we start having TPs across the board in the solo lanes. We start seeing Lissandra and Malphite come down to really sow some chaos.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're going to be looking for those accelerated level sixes on the behalf of the junglers before any real action is taken to. If you're able to get on top of Nocturne, though, Greg certainly can fight early, and that could be a dynamic to watch out for. The question is, where exactly is that going to happen? Because I don't imagine that Ashe Milio is going to be doing a whole lot of pushing versus Ziggs Leota, given the wave clear that the latter has.
Yeah, if we see these two junglers interact, it'll either be in a gank towards the mid lane, where there's plenty of lockdown, plenty of setup here for both of these champions, or it's going to be in a fight around Scuttlecrab. I think Gragas is going to be a lot happier to take those early fights with just 3 spells. The Gragas is really able to duel quite effectively, rotating through those spells, making use of the Happy Hour passive to stay healthier, whereas Nocturne really wants those extra levels to be able to fight effectively. But it may just be that we have a slow game in the early game. These
Hmm.
are teams that are happy to scale up and may just sit back and handshake this.
Yeah, I mean, there is a potential for us to get 1v1s, 2v2s, but We didn't really see any of those result in big plays last game. It kind of turned into occasionally Alistar was going to cheat forward, burning their flash to knock either the Rel or Kai'Sa under tower, but mostly that was just traded back with a flash of their own on Average Joe's side. So, yeah, this being even less aggressively oriented, especially in that support role, kind of indicates to me that we're not really getting a whole lot prior to level 6. Lissandra, though, going to be a huge boon for the side of Cosmic Genesis when they do look to find kills off the back of a Gragas gank and the like, because that relocation potential, the ability to roam, is really going to be something that I think will boost the potential for Red Squad to get out under average Joes.
Yeah, and even when being engaged on by the average Joes, the Ring of Frost is so powerful as a disruption tool. That extra lockdown, that extra second, even if it's not long enough to fully disengage, it's long enough for a Malphite to get in range to ult. It's long enough for a Gragas to turn around and press the R button. It's long enough for an Ultra Mega Fire Kick or an Enchanted Crystal Arrow to come out. So there's just enough there that they can redefine the fight in their favor, regardless of what the average Joes do, so long as Jack is A, in the right place, and B, paying attention to the fight.
All right, Average Joe's Cosmic Genesis about to move into its second chapter alls, and so far we've seen Cosmic Genesis get out ahead, but Average Joe's, I think, have shaped up quite a bit during this draft phase, liking a lot of the champions that they're grabbing. The question is Cosmic Genesis going to win that knowledge check that comes from the likes of this Nocturne early? Very, very excited to get into this one. Let's throw it over to a quick break. When we return, it is going to be for game number 2. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League Platinum / Emerald Division. We got Average Joe's versus Cosmic Genesis well underway. Jumping in about a minute and a half into the game. So we're already seeing where the clears are. We had no craziness early, as unfortunate as that is, but alls, what are you looking for out of the rest of this early game?
I don't think we're going to see much in this early game. If we see a whole bunch of early action, it'll be surprising. It'll have to be some misplays from whichever side comes out on the losing end of these trades. But given the state of the lanes, given the picks here, I very much expect this to be a farm fest until about the 15-minute mark when we get out of laning phase and really jump into team fights.
All right, well, break out the pitchforks. Let's see how farming actually is going to go. I think that last game, it really was not much of a concern for either side. Both of them seem to be very good CSing, even in pretty awkward situations. Archer, in particular, as Ezreal, jammed under the tower, was still able to pick up basically all of the creeps and really keep even with critical nugs to strike at a critical moment. So that's something to watch out for. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to farm on the likes of Ezreal versus Ashe, but Archer still, I don't think, is going to be super pressured. And XMB's got to be careful, though, taking the brunt of damage coming out of critical nugs right now on the Ziggs.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how Archer chooses to build, as Dom is once again just losing to a melee tank.
Yeah, Meddlesome Maxi has played this wave the exact same twice in a row now, getting that stacked up, running at Dom, and basically the Gnar is just not really respecting that space, doesn't have the rage stacks yet, and finds themselves in a pretty precarious position. So we'll see whether or not same thing's going to happen where Maxi overextends and will be ganked, but right now things are looking pretty comfortable, and look at this, Archer flashing forward, able to use that extended range from the Cozy Campfire to hit not only Crazy Dog, but critical nugs as well, and that great Ultra Mega Fire Kick from XMB allows for Donnie to get right on in there and claim first blood for Cosmic Genesis.
Beautiful job there by the bot lane of Cosmic. You know, I guess a farm fest it will be not here. Already a kill onto the Gragas. Unfortunately not going out of the Ashe, but Donnie should be able to make good use of it here. Be able to get up some more early ganks before Argo hits level 6 and is really impactful. That flash forward from Archer though.
Yeah, Donnie keeping their flash about them. Archer was the only one to use that summoner spell on Cosmic Genesis's side, and that is so good because Average Joe's finds themselves in a position where it's still not only their bot lane in a rough
Oh,
position.
Dom, you can't
Donnie's able to approach anybody, and look at this. Dom's in trouble. Maxi able to make this a 1-for-0, even in the face of two members of Average Joe's. Oh, this is looking so rough for the team that really needed a early dominance in this game in order to make something happen.
I genuinely don't know what Dom was thinking there, bouncing into melee range of the Malphite. When you can fully spell rotate like that, even without the Sheen this early on, the base damages from Malphite are just high enough you can shred through someone as squishy as this Gnar. Now, Maxi did overstay and is likely going to pay for it with their life here, but it just seems like an unforced error from the Average Joes.
In bot lane, we got more action. Cosmic Genesis setting up inside of this tri-bush. Meddlesome Maxi certainly still getting pressure. I don't think they're going to be able to make anything happen with only this 100 health. Trying to run towards Dom to delay the striking of that boomerang as it comes back to the Gnar. Doesn't really turn into much. Cosmic Genesis will just have to settle for hopefully picking up a Dragon on the spot side.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard for them to contest this Drake, so that's an early stack to start having in their pockets. Puts them on track for a 20-minute soul, which is blazing fast here in Yarko. They took this thing on spawn. However, the loss in the top side, Max very similarly of what we saw in game 1, where Dom lost hard in the early game, but was able to get it stabilized thanks to some help from Argo, and was able to turn Maxi into a bit of a non-factor for the rest of the early game. I'm curious to see whether that happens here, or whether Maxi has a little bit more effectiveness on the rock.
Archer showing absolutely massive cojones on that bot lane, by the way. Standing there in the face of Crazy Dog and basically telling the Leona they cannot hit their Zenith Blade. Hexify, on the other hand, able to hit their ultimate pretty well. Donnie, on way too eager of an approach into enemy territory, there will be punished for their invade.
And these are the kind of small mistakes that I was talking about in game 1. Just unnecessary, greedy, pointless plays from the side of Cosmic Genesis that they just get punished for again and again and again. And they need to clean this up. Yeah, the Average Joes aren't exactly the strongest team in BOL Plat Emerald, but they still need to be respected, and you still need to take these games as opportunities to improve yourselves for when you're facing up against the more compelling enemy teams. I don't like the fact that they're not improving game over game in that regard.
It's a gold lead right now for Average Joe's as well on top of that. Not a very big one, but mind you, Cosmic Genesis were in no better of a position versus Average Joe's in game number 1, and they came out pretty dominant. They just set up well for future team fights, and right now, these past 2 kills going over to Average Joe's kind of gives me confidence to think that Blue Squad knows that they're able to contest. They know that they are not that much worse than Cosmic Genesis, or maybe perhaps they're even better seeing how this series goes. But yeah, I expect more confidence now out of Blue Squad, and I think we're going to get some more action early, especially as Argo is creeping ever closer towards that level 6.
Yeah, just ticking over that now. Looking forward to seeing where the first Paranoia comes. Any thoughts on what you expect to be the first target here? Onto Jack or down towards the bot lane?
Ooh, I don't really know. I'm pretty eager to see how much damage they're able to do to Archer or XMB and the like. I think that Jack is relatively safe. Playing Lissandra means
Goodbye,
that
Dom.
basically you don't have to deal with kills. Speaking of kills, though, Meddlesome Maxi certainly is putting the hurt onto Dom. And it's very rare you see the Malphite solo Bolo, but there you have it, folks. This Gnar struggling immensely in this game.
I disagree, Yarko. Malphite is one of the easiest top lane champions to pick up those solo kills on. Nobody respects the damage that comes out of the rock, and the scaling is just so powerful on the champion. Stacking armor is enough to up your damages incredibly, so it becomes very easy to execute just like that, and you're still safe enough to be able to run away from Argo trying to salvage this lane with the Paranoia.
Yeah, it's a baffling call to Paranoia up here, actually, in my opinion. Yeah, Dom is back up here, but Crazy Dog can't actually set up for a play given the fact that they don't have Solar Flare available just yet. And Cosmic Genesis just walks it out, pulling massive amounts of resources up here by Average Joe's. We'll see whether or not Blue Squad is going to try to go for Rift Herald because of it, but Donnie very certainly could still try to go for a steal angle or something like that. Lissandra's going to move their way on up here. Maxi's coming back with a big buy, and I don't think that Shelly's going to go down in time.
They'll be able to pop the second eye here. It looks like Donnie's
yeah.
just going to give up on it, so no Herald fight to be had. That will be a little bit of gold in pocket and a chance of significantly more, but they will have to use it effectively, and so far, the shot calling out of Argo, at least after hitting level 6, has been a little bit underwhelming here. Need to see that Rift Herald used a bit more intelligently than the Paranoia was.
There's definitely a chance that Average Joe's will be able to make an imitation of Cosmic Genesis work out here, where Red Squad got the Dragon first in game number 1, then they got split, then Average Joe's pulled ahead. I think that's an angle to look for, as rounding the corner, XMB gets hit by the Zenith Blade, is still able to make it to safety, and now the Ziggs is in trouble. Enchanted Crystal Arrow gonna definitely land upon this champion. They will be able to get to the far side of the explosive cask, but that's certainly the fight of a lifetime for Critical Nugs and Crazy Dog.
Yeah, that's so many summoner spells burned. That flashes off both, plus the ignite off Crazy Dog. It's going to be a very, very vulnerable Ziggs Leona here for the near future. And this is going to lock Crazy Dog down towards this bot lane. Not going to be able to get off roams like we saw earlier. Yeah, it wasn't very effective trying to find Maxi in the top lane, but at least the Leona was unlocked, was able to try something. Dom has to be very careful here because there comes the Unstoppable Force, and there goes the Gnar. Popped like a balloon here, Nyarko.
I still don't really understand how Average Joe's is losing against a Malphite top this hard, Alls, especially given the assistance that Argo's been bringing up here. I guess this is a clear weak point on the team that Average Joe's is just unable to plug up, and Cosmic Genesis are exploiting it, not even with resources from Donnie coming up or anything like that, just Meddlesome Maxi playing more aggressively than you would expect. It seems to be doing so much for the team. Now, we do have a bit of an engage around this dragon. That's going to force the Breath of Life out of XMB, but the Milio does get to safety, and now Argo just has to flash back to safety. This isn't actually looking all that great for Average Joe's. They will be able to pick up Archer to get control over this bot side, but I was looking for so much more given the health disadvantage that Cosmic Genesis found themselves in.
Yeah, they didn't get much, but they got enough. They get a kill, they get control over this Drake Pit, they'll stop the stacking, and this is a little bit of a breath of relief for the Average Joe's. This is one more win condition that they have a little bit of extra time on. Dom, you're not allowed to be here, though. This is Maxi now sitting at nearly a fully completed Frozen Fist, rather, will be able to just chase down Dom if they're not careful.
Jack able to get to safety, and that ultimate handoff means that Donnie will be able to scoop a kill versus the Vex. That has got to be so frustrating for Hexify. They had great setup. Jack is just going to be able to move out of the way, CCing the Vex while they escape, and then Donnie is able to follow up with the handoff. Beautiful stuff there. Cosmic Genesis is going to be up yet another kill, and they have the gold lead back.
Yeah, I do still have a little bit of a concern about the gold distribution. Because right now, the gold lead, in so far as there is one, is just 500 gold. It's entirely on Maxi here in the top lane, who has taken 3 plates by themselves, who has 3 kills onto this Gnar, and is absolutely dominant, but it is still a Malphite. It's a pretty one-note champion here, and not having any of these kills onto the Lissandra or Ashe means that there is a little bit of a vulnerability in team fights here that the average Joes can take advantage of, because the gold isn't on the carries. They're not going to be pumping out as much as you might expect given the kill lead that we're seeing right now.
The alternate side of this, though, is that we haven't really seen Meddlesome Maxi show up for anything like a team fight yet, and Cosmic Genesis is still pretty comfortably holding their own across the map. Things are going to become a little bit more dicey now that Argo picked up another kill around that dragon. Obviously, that Infernal passive buff is nothing to stop at either. Just in general, though, this still isn't fully confirmed for average Joes, as them being an advantage, even with the gold being as close as it is. Meddlesome Maxi is going to still be this shiny beacon for Cosmic Genesis to rally around, and I think as long as the Malphite is there for a fight, Cosmic Genesis is down to clown. Over the wall, by the way. I was not expecting that. Jack is just going to help Donnie and Maxi blow up Hexify for a second time, and at this point, I just keep punching the keyboard, man.
Yeah, that timing on that call needs to be clipped and put in the casting hall of fame, Yarko. The moment you called the fight is found. And once again, Donnie picks up another, now 4-1 on the Gragas. Beautifully executed dives both times, able to pick up the turret as well, even before this Ziggs, who on a satchel charge is going to be able to take this bot one at least. So a little bit of gold back in the pockets of the average Joes, but still overall a huge shift in favor of Cosmic Genesis right now.
I don't really know why Archer and XMB are staying around this tower. It's going to be blown up in an instant, and Critical Nug still has the Mega Inferno Bomb, and now with the Zenith Blade on top of all that, Crazy Dog is going to force Archer and company so far back. Dom is on the flank. There goes XMB, sniped away by the Zig. Now the question is, can Cosmic Genesis get anything on the back end of this play? Given the fact that they have Meddlesome Maxi down here, it could be the case that they will. Donnie just melts through Dom. I don't know how the hell that happened. Meddlesome Maxi doesn't have ultimate available, but they're still suffocating Crazy Dog for the time being. Jack's coming, trying to go over the wall, will be able to find an angle, uses the Everfrost. There's the root onto Critical Nugs. The Ziggs desperately trying to get away from the rock, and Meddlesome Maxi will provide absolutely no recourse. Average Joes go deep, and they find a few kills, but Cosmic Genesis clap right back.
Yeah, that was a great return there off of what looked to be potentially a major misstep by Jack. I don't know if you noticed, he got into the fight with Critical Nugs, stood still for 3 seconds, and then immediately turned and channeled the TP onto a minion in the bot lane. That's how Lissandra got so far behind the average Joes there, and was able to flank very effectively, but it could have been absolutely disastrous if that hadn't gone perfectly.
Hexify going to live on a sliver of health, though. Heartbreak for Cosmic Genesis, almost turning around the play yet again. Now, from a man down, they're going to have to try to make something happen, but Meddlesome Maxi doesn't have that much health to play with. Donnie has to push back after killing Dom. It looks like we will be in a stalemate, but Critical Nugs is very happy with this situation. They got that artillery fire to whittle down the remaining health bars of Red Squad, and here's a teleport. They want to go aggressive. Crazy Dog looking for an angle versus XMB. They're spotted off the sweeper, and there they are, hit by the Zenith Blade, and Critical Nugs cleans up.
I think XMB has kind of forgotten this. They're no longer on the Alistair. You're not tanky. You cannot walk like that. Stay with the team, Milio. You cannot afford to die. Give up vision, give up priority. They're going to lose the second Rift Herald here. And if the average Joes can break open this mid-turret as well, it's going to be so much easier for them to push vision in, to take advantage of the flanking and collapse abilities of this team comp that they built for themselves. Genesis has to play around this and stop making stupid mistakes.
And this is an immediate rush towards the dragon by Cosmic Genesis, wanting to pick that neutral objective up, get themselves stacked onto the soul front for the second game running. Good distraction play using this Rift Herald, though, into the mid lane. Now, the question is, will Cosmic Genesis take the bait and try to go for an engage? It looks like Jack is going to pull the trigger, gets the Everfrost off onto Argo, and now they're going to be comboed down by Meddlesome Maxi, solo ulting them. The Nocturne is out of the play. Now, the question is, can Dom do anything? So close to popping with the rage stacks, gets the triple knockback. Hexify trying to provide artillery fire throughout. Cosmic Genesis will be able to send their shadows forward and get a few kills, but Dom is dead, and Crazy Dog cannot go for the re-engage at such low health.
Yeah, but the health bars on Genesis are low as well. Meddlesome might just die here before taking the turret. It does in fact fall, but the shutdown goes to Leona here, Nyarko.
Yeah, and that's pretty rough for Average Joes. They lose that tower, they lose that fight, they lose that third dragon of the game. Average Joes now find themselves in a position where the gold gap is going to start to matter. Cosmic Genesis have proven that even if the fights aren't full on 5 versus 0 wipes alls, Red Squad still probably wins any confrontation that they force for now.
Yeah, and it was only going to get easier as Donnie gets bigger. This is not a tank Gragas. Donnie has gone full AP here with the Proto Belt, building towards another full AP item, has the fully stacked Dark Seal as well. So Gragas will absolutely demolish Hexify and Critical Nugs on the backside of these fights. And it doesn't seem like the Average Joes have an answer. They're flummoxed by this Gragas.
Gragas is really that champion that brought all the utility that Cosmic Genesis needed. If Meddlesome Maxi is playing a one-note champion, Gragas is that symphony. They got the mobility, they got the CC, they got the burst damage, and it really is becoming a huge thorn in Average Joe's side. Frankly, I don't really think there is an answer to killing Donnie. You're just hoping that the Gragas overextends, super eager for a kill. We know that they can want to continue to scale up, and maybe from there, if you could take that giant down, you can start working on Archer and company.
Yeah, it's just so hard. There's not the damage in the carries right now. Argo went with the Stride Breaker. This is not a Nocturne that's just going to delete someone. And Hexify, Critical Nugs, they need a couple more items before they're really in that spot. The only person who can start trying to shred through this Gragas at the moment is Dom. And we've seen how Dom is very feast or famine in these fights. Sometimes the Gnar is incredible from Dom, and other times it seems like they've never played the champion before.
Things coming out of Argo. They know that Baron Nashor is on the horizon, and Cosmic Genesis are actually the first ones to move into this topside river. They're starting to clear out vision. That Scuttle Crab being taken by Average Joe early means that I don't think we're going to get an immediate rush down of the Big Purple Worm by Cosmic Genesis, but there certainly is a lot of eagerness here to try to get this game and series over with. We saw a 23-minute game in round number 1, and we're looking to see whether or not Cosmic Genesis can make the same thing happen here.
Yeah, they're definitely looking for it. Floating around this Baron, you can see they've got the vision down. They're continuing to float right around this pit. It seems like Donnie wants to try and find an angle where they can avoid the Scuttle Crab here. But there's just not going to be enough angle as now the Scuttle Crab falls. If they can get a little bit of a push, if they can find some breathing room, they can look to burn down this Baron and try to close this game out very quickly, the same way they did in Game 1.
I think that the dynamic we got to look out for here is the fact that Malphite will have to teleport to a play if we see a team fight happen around the Baron Nashor. Right now, they're busying themselves with pushing up against Dom in the bot side of the map. And while this is all well and good, the problem is Malphite has to take that delay and then a further delay as they try to set up for a good ultimate. And so this aggressive angle off of Critical Nugs not landing might be rough for Cosmic Genesis because we see that Paranoia fired off. It looks like Average Joes will not try to answer back, though.
No, that Paranoia burned it defensively here, and now immediately pings going down onto the Baron. The team of Genesis wants to take this as quickly as possible, and with no vision, there is going to be a very delayed reaction from the Average Joes. It's down to 3/4 health as we see the blue trinket come out. Can they respond in time here?
This is so risky. There's the Mega Inferno bomb. Donnie actually going relatively low on health. And remember, the Gragas is such a big source of damage. XMB and Archer already basically out of the play. Great angle there from Hexify. And here comes the ultimate. Vex right on top of 4 members. Archer has to go golden. Donnie with no health to play with. They will be able to kite out the Vex and get the kill. But now look at this. The Baron Nashor is going low. Malphite going to raw ult on top of Crazy Dog and company. Critical Nugs, though, able to walk back, shooting out those package bombs to zone out Donnie from Meddlesome Maxi, and this Malphite is struggling to find any damage now. Jack going too low, will be blowing up. Oh, Cosmic Genesis, you greeted, y'all! And now Average Joes have full control over this river.
That was such a close fight. Look at how low these health bars are from Average. That's a single spell rotation from Donnie. But with how much burst came in the first fight, with how much damage Donnie took from the Baron, there was just no chance for the Gragas to get in there. You're not tanky. You cannot tank the Drake. You need the Malphite there to be able to take that Baron call. And instead, they're going to lose the fight. They're going to lose the Dragon here, delaying this scaling even further. And with the pressure that the Average Joes are going to get on the map, they're going to make it even harder to look to close this game out. Suddenly, the Average Joes have a little bit of the driver's seat back in their hands. They can start trying to control this game once again.
I'll be 100% honest. I think it's more than that, Alls. I think Average Joes have gotten over the hump. They are keeping themselves even keel with Cosmic Genesis in regards to gold and map presence. And this Ziggs is going to outscale everybody on Red Squad's side. So keep an eye on Critical Nugs for future fights as long as they remain protected off the back of a very aggressive angle from Hexify and Argo also buying space. I think that this could just be wrapped up and we could be going to game number 3. Cosmic Genesis has to be so careful about how they approach things from now on.
Yeah, now trying to clear out vision, trying to reassert control over this Baron. But with the 2 items completed on the Ziggs, with Argo ready and willing to press that paranoia button at any time, this is not a good fight.
Solar Flare onto 2 members, and look at the follow-up! That's exactly what Average Joes needed! Shut down onto Donnie! Archer going to fall! This is Baron Nashor, and this is probably game number 2 going over to Average Joes.
It certainly feels that way. Maxi forced to use the Unstoppable Force to get out, and they will let him go, but it is at the cost of this Baron. There's no smite on the board for Team Genesis. They will have to cede this. Luckily for them, the map has not been opened up too heavily by this Average Joe squad. They have only taken outer turrets, so it will take a large percentage of this Baron just to break into the base. However, it's the swing, it's the amount of gold they're going to get, it's the amount of pressure they're going to get, the map control they're going to get, which will make it so difficult for Genesis to bring this back.
Alls, they have a Ziggs. These are basically tissue paper in the front of this champion, especially given how fed we see Critical Nugs right now. 9,870 gold right now in their favor. They are looking so good. And now I really do think that the gold distribution that you were harping on earlier is finally starting to bite Cosmic Genesis. I thought that Donnie would be able to hand off and become super powerful, but by fact of the matter is that Donnie is the jungler at the end of the day. They don't have quite as much income as Critical Nugs, and this Ziggs, like I said before, will be doing more with those items as they crest over that 3rd item power spike.
Well, we'll certainly have to see here, Narco. They've got about 2 minutes on this Baron to try and make it work. We'll be very curious to see what they do, as right now they're playing this very slowly. They haven't moved forward to really push out these lanes. That's a 1/3 of the Baron buff taken away already.
Yep. Maxi trying to stem the bleeding on the top lane. They still have that tier 1 available, but that also kind of means that this Malphite is just in the wilderness when they really do not have to be. This is not the lane that you got to be worried about right now. And you got the whole squad coming your way. Average Joes just looking to jump upon the tank and then pop these towers down. Argo going to initiate things with their ultimate. Good utilization of the Unstoppable Force to get Meddlesome Maxi out from under the Solar Flare, but is it enough? No, they will die. And now Donnie is just going to have to sit there and watch the tower fall.
Yeah, nothing you can do. However, this focus on the top lane does mean it's going to take a little bit longer to push in. They've taken 1 so far. How many can they take before the Baron buff falls off, and Team Genesis has the chance to make a counterattack here. They're certainly
Jack
looking
over
for
the
it
wall.
on
There goes the
top.
Everfrost. It's going to hit multiple members, but why are you fighting over the tier 2? Now, Lissandra's just going to get blendered. Archer is too low. They're trying to cower into the tier 2, but I don't really think that this is the right time to pull the trigger. Argo going to be able to sustain back up and jam another wave into this tower with the range advantage that the Ziggs brings to the table.
Yeah, they're slowly chipping away here. However, the thing about that fight is nobody died on the side of Genesis, and that is the rest of the Baron buff burned. So
Yeah, that one's surprisingly better than I thought. I thought that Cosmic Genesis were about to just die there, but Average Joe's will, in fact, play prudently, back off. Now, the question is, where will Blue Squad use the remnants of this Baron Nashor buff? Ultimate fired off. Jack has no more stasis abilities left. This is going to be a pick for the ages, and it comes right at the worst time for Cosmic Genesis. Now, with Donnie also split in a reset on the Vex ultimate, this is also the Gragas falling. Teleport once again from Maxi, way too late to the play. Down goes the Gragas, and now with Dom in fully enraged form, this is looking like a full-on disaster for Cosmic Genesis. A Mega Inferno Bomb will hit all 3 remaining members of Red Squad. Archer to Meddlesome Maxi will not be able to resist this push in the mid lane. Baron be damned. Down goes the Malphite, for some reason hovering there, and it's just questionable play after questionable play from Red Squad, who looked so good in game number 1.
Well, Yarko, they made mistakes in game 1 too. The Average Joes just weren't able to capitalize. This game, they're playing more intelligently. They're seeing where the mistakes are coming out of Cosmic Genesis, and they're using them to their advantage. Now able to break the inhibitor, open up the space, and make it so much more difficult for Cosmic Genesis to move out of the base, contest these neutrals. A third Drake will be taken here momentarily, putting the side of the Average Joes on Soul Point. Nyarko, this was Cosmic's game to lose, and they have lost it in a stunning fashion.
Yeah, 2 pushes, one of them not even fully empowered by the Baron Nashor, and Average Joes find themselves up a massive amount of gold. This is the biggest gap I think we've seen beyond just the very, very end of that game number 1, and I don't really know if Genesis has the ability to come back. It feels like they are just so momentum-based, and right now it has come to a screeching halt. Average Joes going to have to just prove to themselves that they can play from ahead, which is far easier than proving you can play from behind, something that Cosmic Genesis certainly has not proven up until this point.
Yeah, and Average Joes did not play great in game 1, but they didn't make stupid mistakes. They made mistakes, for sure, but it wasn't the mistakes of we're not paying attention to our surroundings, we're not making use of our advantages. It was the mistakes of we're being out macroed, we're not respecting our enemy laners. So as long as they continue to play their game, they should be fine. It's going to be very difficult for Cosmic to come back from this. And we say this every time we cast a game. When you get this far behind, it comes down to mistakes from the enemy team. But here, given the tendencies of these teams, it will absolutely come down to that coin flip of, do the Average Joes come up below average one time too many?
Cosmic Genesis currently trying to keep things in a lull state. They have their inhibitor mid broken, which means that for the time being, Average Joes are just able to absorb waves, push things back out, and keep control over these 2 rivers. We are 20 seconds away from another Baron Nashor spawning up. More importantly, we are 3 minutes out from a soul attempt by Average Joes. And if they are able to just grab this Baron Nashor with very little in the way of contestation, Cosmic Genesis probably are going to be relegated to their base for the long haul, and that probably just will lead to a loss because Average Joes will do so much to benefit off the back of a Mountain Soul, especially given the fact that right now Cosmic Genesis are struggling the most on just getting damage down onto squishy members of Blue Squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see the Average Joes make better use of this Baron than the last one. Yeah, they were able to segue it into, ooh, boy, Archer just barely whiffing on critical nugs there. The last Baron, the Average Joes were able to segue into a lead after the fact. I'd like to see this Baron used more proactively, potentially to just end the game here. With the broken inhibitor, with a Ziggs on the map, they should be able to close this out if they can get a clean Baron fight.
I mean, the question is, can Cosmic Genesis even contest around this Baron? And I really don't know the answer to that. I would say no, given just how powerful Critical Nugs is right now, and the fact that this is a very zone control oriented team means that it's ever more painful
Oh,
for Cosmic Genesis
Donnie.
to try to walk up. And Donnie getting picked is also certainly not helping the situation. Look at that CC, the Flea on top of Flea, the Fear on top of Fear, and Cosmic Genesis certainly are living in Average Joe's world.
Another unforced error from Cosmic Genesis, and that one is going to seal the Baron here. Nyarko, how in the world do you come back from a game like this? Obviously, the Average Joes have this one all but sewn up. Into Game 3 as Cosmic Genesis, in a game that you had complete control of, and you threw away, it'll be so difficult for Cosmic Genesis to regain their frame of mind and play smartly and correctly in Game 3 without letting the tilt get to them.
The hope is that Cosmic Genesis just clobbers Average Joe so hard early on in game number 3 that even if they make mistakes, there's really not much that Blue Squad can do about it. You know, those kinds of games where you're just able to play very, very silly and it doesn't really matter, even if
Like
shutdowns
Game
go
1.
over. Yeah, that honestly I think is a little bit less than what you actually need to truly have an unresponsive Average Joe's. Right now, Average Joe's showed that they were tenacious even in the face of what was a small lead over to Cosmic Genesis within the first few minutes, completely evaporated. And look at this, it's about to be a soul picked up, if not just a complete and utter pick onto this Milio, who has to use that Breath of Life early. Here comes the follow through with Hexify getting on top of Donnie. This time around, Mega Inferno Bomb is not going to land, but Dom is just able to fully face tank that Enchanted Crystal Arrow. And while Meddlesome Maxi still does have the Unstoppable Force available, Cosmic Genesis will not be around to follow up. They're just going to give away a chance at the soul.
Yeah, I mean, they have to fight this. At this point, the desperation has set in, and Maxi pulling the trigger really wants to find something here. I don't think they will, though.
No, Crazy Dog finds an engage yet again off that Zenith blade. They don't really have the follow-up CC, but Dom, the hero, hits 3 members with their knockback, and that is a double-double off the back of the top laner from Average Joe's as Critical Nugs dismantles the rest of Cosmic Genesis. Never mind, this isn't even going to be a Dragon Soul ult. This is just the end of the game with the Baron Nashor buff. This is Average Joe's shoving through the bot lane, looking to bring us to game number 3.
Yeah, this was the clean fight to end all fights. Maxi going to die here just to add insult to injury as the game comes to a close here. A completely different energy from what we saw in Game 1. Average Joe's with a little bit more ability to impact the mid-game took that and ran with it like lightning. 26-16 in 11,000 gold lead. And a decisive way to send us to game 3 here.
Cosmic Genesis really have to feel bad about that one. That game was completely in their hands, throwing it away off the back of several questionable plays. And as you kind of noted from game number 1, Alls, these are plays that they don't really seem to be learning from. The fact of the matter is, this is 2 games running where Maxi almost sells the whole thing downriver by going for a very late teleport into a fight that they just should not be in. And that leads to Cosmic Genesis dropping multiple members around these crucial neutral objectives, and they get Average Joe's to a position where the scaling took hold and that Ziggs came to life. So, as we dive into what will be the 3rd draft of the night, the question to keep in mind as we move through this next break is going to be, what can Cosmic Genesis do to answer back? We'll throw it over to that, and then we will be right back here for our 3rd and final round. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League Platinum Division. We are moving into game number 3, or at least draft number 3, between Cosmic Genesis and Average Joe's. As Cosmic Genesis, unfortunately, it's kind of fell apart there at the end. Alls, what happened?
Yeah, those small mistakes that we were seeing all throughout game one, where they were just overstepping, not respecting the enemy team, not paying attention to their surroundings or to their lack of vision, started biting them very hard as the average Joes were able to make much better use of it. They were able to take a couple of good team fights and find the kills that they needed in order to snowball out of control. If Cosmic Genesis is going to pull this series back, they need to clean up their act. No more mistakes, no more giving the average Joes the opportunity and the roadmap back into the games that they have been putting in their pocket with these early games.
The good news, Alls, is that Cosmic Genesis has, for the past 2 games, made the same mistakes. And so, if they're able to use this kind of extra long time they had to pause and reflect upon their actions, perhaps this is the time in which we're going to be getting some big improvements out of them. And I look forward to see what they are going to do here in this draft to hopefully sway my belief that this could just be Average Joe's comeback time.
Well, they start out by drafting the Ziggs away from Average Joes, which is certainly a bold move, but Critical Nugs performed so well on it that it is imperative to take it away. How do you feel about this being picked as opposed to banned?
I need to really just see how they're going to fare bot lane. Archer, I think, probably has a good time on the Ziggs given their prior history playing the likes of the Ashe and the Ezreal, other relatively safe long range champions. Obviously, moving to a mage can be a big adjustment for AD carries, but I think that this could be a smart call. Zaya Rakan, though, going to be what Average Joe's fires back with, and I do like this as a response. Being able to use your ultimate in such a way to get out from under the Mega Inferno Bomb will already take the edge off of Ziggs during team fights, and it will also mean that you're a little bit harder for this Gragas that Team Cosmic Genesis is going back to actually hit them with.
This is a Ziggs mid.
Oh, it is.
All right. So that's going on Jack then, very much in the vein of the Vigar from game one, as Archer back on the Ashe
Could be
from
Ashe
last
support.
game. It could be Ashe support. We haven't seen that in a hot minute. It's been, gosh, at least a season since I've seen Ashe support. What a world.
I I mean, that means a little bit less now that seasons are massively truncated compared to what they were in the past. But what I will say
True,
for
true.
an Ashe support pick here, Alls, is that Ashe doesn't really do that much damage. I think that you're perfectly happy going for another AD carry in this position as well. If you want to still put the Ziggs mid, there's a lot of decision points here. I'm not going to lock in and say Cosmic Genesis is going Ziggs mid because that's the case. Even if Ashe support is now a little bit off meta, Average Joe is now in the second phase, going to hover the Talia. Be still, my heart. I hope that this gets picked up, and I really do think it would be a good source of AP damage to help Average Joes really round out their profile.
Yeah, but instead it's going to rotate over to the Viego for the jungle here. I mean, this is certainly a jungler in the vein of Nocturne for Argo. Wants to farm up to 6, but once you hit that point, once you have the Heartbreaker, is able to really dominate in these ganks. So I don't hate it here, given how well the Nocturne went. That being said, this does mean that Cosmic Genesis has to either blind the mid lane or rotate the Ziggs up there. And with the lock of the Renata, it will be the Ziggs in mid. So outside of Ziggs, they do get counterpick here for Maxi. No option for the Ornn. Does he pick away the Gnar and show this top laner how it's done?
I don't really think that Gnar is the best matchup into the Ornn. We kind of talked about how this has to be a comfort thing to some degree for the likes of Average Joes, but at the same time, it certainly did its work in that last game, and it did things that only a Gnar could do, which definitely could appeal to people. It looks like ultimately it's going to be
Okay.
Cassante instead, though, and rounding out the draft will be Average Joes grabbing themselves a Kali for Hexify. Finally, they're bringing in the magic damage.
Yeah, insta-lock Akali here. I mean, I don't hate it looking at the team comp from Cosmic Genesis. You have the Ziggs, you have the Ashe, you have the Renata, all fairly squishy. My concern is that if Zaya becomes a non-factor in this game, either because Archer is able to win the bot lane, or because Donnie is able to control and contain Xayah in teamfights, there's not really going to be much to shred through Gragas and Cassante. Akali is a burst champion. She does not have the same sustained damage as most other mid laners with a lot of AP here. So this is going to be very difficult for average Joes unless they're able to win on all fronts.
Jumping into the client draft now, I think that we're probably going to be seeing a pretty clearly aligned team. Cosmic Genesis probably locking into that Cassante in the top lane. An Ashe top flex would be hilarious given that, it has been featured before. I've seen it played. And then you could go for something like the Ziggs in the bot lane, right? Cassante mid, all viable, except for the Ashe top. But yeah, this is looking pretty set in stone. And now the question is this good enough for Cosmic Genesis to come back? Or do you think the mental damage is too great and average Joes are going to take this game number 3?
I think the mental damage is going to be very hard to overcome, and I'm also concerned that we haven't seen improvement game over game. Game 1's mistakes were writ large once again in Game 2. We needed improvement from Cosmic Genesis, and instead we got regression. The mistakes got worse, they got bigger, they got more punishable. So if the trend continues, Cosmic Genesis is absolutely going to throw this game away. They need to prove to us that they can adapt. And right now, given what I've seen from them mentally, and given what I've seen from them playing, I don't have faith that that's the case.
Here's what I will say. I think that Team Cosmic Genesis had to contend with a team that in the last game was very well oriented to exploit weaknesses, especially when it
Fair.
comes to the likes of positioning. There's no Vex on the table. There's no Nocturne on the table. This time around, average Joes are going to have to approach fights the old-fashioned way off the backs of Rakan and Ornn Ultimate. I think that there is an angle here where Cosmic Genesis is able to provide a little bit more of a clean front line off the back of Cassante, and if you can run at and isolate the correct member of average Joes, this could still be Blue Squad's game to win.
That's absolutely fair. My trust is just broken after game 2.
I mean,
Game 2
same.
scarred me. So we're going to have to see from Cosmic Genesis. There are sparks. There is a chance, but we don't have Milio in this game. We don't know if the kindling will turn into a nice, gentle burning flame. So we will have to see whether Cosmic Genesis can pull this one out, or whether both these two teams will find their match at 1-1.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting game. I'm happy that we're being taken over to a round 3. It shows the level of competition here, even from average Joes going 0-2 in week number 1. They certainly have scaled back up, and I think that out of these two teams, as you're kind of talking about, the character arc is certainly in place for them to dominate. Cosmic Genesis, on the other hand, have got to bring it back here for this game at number 3. We'll see you guys on the other side of this break, and we'll be back with the final game of the night. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Blue Otter League for game number 3 here in this Platinum Division matchup between Cosmic Genesis and Average Joes. For the first time, we get a little bit of early game action, a 5-man push by Cosmic Genesis into enemy territory, but all they come up with is Crazy Dog turning tail around, walking towards that mid lane tower.
Nah, come on, Yarko. The game's over. 15 gold in the pockets of Cosmic Genesis. That is all you need to win this game.
Does go on to the Ziggs, notably enough, and I do think that Jack is going to be the focal point of this one. I want to see this champion pop off. Might be a little bit difficult, though, during the fact that early game, they're forced off against Hexify, who is on the Akali, looking to blow these squishy champions up.
Yeah, there is going to be a focus on Jack, though, in particular because Archer is going to be so squishy and so vulnerable here, choosing to go with the Ghost, hyper aggressive in these summoner spells, but that does mean that when Crazy Dog gets on top of them, when Argo or Dom find the stuns, find the knockups to get onto this Ashe, Archer is just going to have to roll over and die. So Jack is going to have a whole lot more weight on their shoulders in these team fights.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't cleanse a knockup. You're most likely going to be looking at Crazy Dog going in onto the Ashe as your main mode of engage. Also, similarly, you can't cleanse Dom's ultimate, as it similarly will be a knockup with Call of the Forge God. So the fact that XMB goes for heal here should hopefully be enough to keep things relatively stable. There's a flash from Crazy Dog right into the Ignite, forcing said flash out of Archer as well. But it's a 2-for-1 trade, and I think the Ashe is pretty happy about that, even though it is a support for ADC.
Yeah, it'll be okay for now. Archer, I think, is going to be holding out hope for an early gank from Donnie, the same way we saw in Game 1, able to take down Crazy Dog and really get this bot lane into a safer spot early. And Donnie, with similar pathing here, clearing out the opposite side of the map, should be looking to come towards bot in at least the nearish future.
Donnie's just going to cross through this mid lane here, provide that little bit of insurance that Hexify cannot go in, and that buys the space necessary for the Ziggs to jam all the way into that tower and start a Roman with the Gragas as well to hopefully secure this bottom Scuttle Crab.
And bot Scuttle Crab, they're just walking all the way into this bot lane. Donnie sitting here in this bush. They do not know that this is going on from the side of Average Joes. So if they can pull this off, this will be a beautiful 4-on-2 team fight here in the bot side.
Yeah, and Viego venturing into River could also be in trouble. It looks like ultimately with the pings coming out, Cosmic Genesis are trying to pull off an invade versus Average Joes, but there's a whole exposed side of the map that we still haven't seen Donnie fully farm up yet, and so I feel like this is a little bit for nothing, and it's actually going to be Argo moving over to that Scuttle Crab. Eventually, they will be repelled towards that mid lane, but this just doesn't seem super successful, and Jack is now behind on XP.
Yeah, a little bit of a misplay there. If it had worked, we would be singing their praises, but since they weren't able to find anything, we will see it as a mistake. The wonderful duality of early game roams, but as you said, Donnie now 2 full camps down with the failed gank, has to spend this time, instead of affecting lanes, just trying to pick up these camps that they left sit. Argo's going to be able to affect Maxi here, who hasn't had the same level of success as they had in games 1 and 2 of dominating Dom in the top lane.
Maxi does manage the Pathmaker to safety in this 1v2, constantly trying to push up, and this is so dangerous. Argo is just backing in that bush, could interrupt it at any time. Will eventually decide to take the reset, though.
Yeah, just the threat of Argo still being there, though, is enough to give Maxi pause here for the foreseeable future. Going to have to play this very, very slowly, very defensively into Dom, as Donnie going in hard onto critical nugs, wants to get the flash knock.
Interesting that they go so deep for this one here. They aren't even able to pick up a kill onto the relatively low critical nugs. Donnie burning that summoner spell, and yeah, they're able to give the Xayah a fright of a lifetime, but we didn't really see much in the way of a potential for a kill because Archer was stunned up by that Blade Caller at the beginning of the play, so they were just not within range to auto attack down either the Rakan or the Xayah.
Yeah, that just seems like a real overcommitment. They said they wanted the fight, and they were going to take the fight come hell or high water, burning 3 summoner spells in exchange for just the 2 critical nugs. Looks like Average is going to find Maxi here on the top side, though.
Yeah, Maxi probably didn't even need to have the Viego come up for them to die. I think that Dom probably could have handled that alone, but Theo certainly is going to be a rough surprise for Cosmic Genesis as they lose out on First Blood. They will grab a dragon in return, but I still do think that this gold boost is putting Average Joe's into a pretty dominant position early in this one. Look at that count, actually, Alls. It's more than 1,000 gold in favor of Red Squad, only 5-6 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and a lot of that is coming down to the dominant CS leads in mid and bot. 15 CS at 6 minutes is an absolutely incredible pace here for Average Joe's. And you need to start thinking, why is this happening? Jack has the range advantage, should be able to poke out Hexify and win these trades, instead losing fairly significantly. Archer has been fairly stalwart in this bot lane, but this game just absolutely demolished. And I think some of that is coming down to the mental difficulties that we talked about after game 2. After such a hard throw, it's very difficult to bring it back and stay calm and work the laning phase the way it needs to be worked.
You know how I feel about Ashe to begin with, Alls. Not a big fan of this champion. I don't think it really does much in the way of damage, and now the fact that it's going to be so far behind Critical Nugs paints a bleak picture. All the made worse by the fact that Donnie just dies in the topside jungle as well. It is a mess alongside my commentary, and pretty rough for Cosmic Genesis to have to try to weather now. The gold gap, immense, only 7 minutes in. Basically, Red Squad could do whatever they want if they start grouping up.
Yeah, not just executed was Donnie, but styled upon by Hexify. The perfect execution coming in, the Shuriken flip to chase Donnie all the way into that blue side jungle. I mean, everything going right for Average Joe's right now. And compared to games 1 and 2, where at least Cosmic Genesis had some victories in the early game, I'm really not feeling the energy from them. It feels like they've somewhat given up on this early game, and that's not what you need on a team comp like this, and with a team of the mentality that Cosmic Genesis has had throughout this series.
Rift Herald bot spawn, we'll see whether or not Cosmic Genesis wants to try to angle for that. I think at this point in time, it's going to be a massive risk to try to do so. More than 2,000 gold in favor of Average Joe's at this point, and frankly, given that they have a little bit more of an aggressive bent prior to Donnie hitting that level 6, with Argo already there, I do think that this is basically the Shelly for Average Joe's to take.
Yeah, however, Argo coming down towards the spot side wants to focus elsewhere for now, with the threat of the Rift Herald in the back of Cosmic Genesis's mind. They're going to think that Argo's topside, so this gives a perfect opportunity for him to come down, try and find a pick onto Archer and XMB here, assuming Critical and Crazy can find the setup.
No shutdowns available just yet, so Kill is not going to quite outdo the gold lead that Average Joe's currently has, but it's something to watch out for. Crazy Dog, though, actually going to be the one to pull the trigger. Featherstorm not going to do a whole lot. XMB is just able to walk this one out, and actually that is going to be a hostile takeover to maybe turn things back in favor of Archer, firing off the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Argo, way too low,
deep.
tried to go for the dive, but the Heartbreaker didn't quite land, and XMB kites them out with the heal at their back. That is going to be 1 for free back over to Cosmic Genesis.
Yeah, unforced errors this time coming out of the Average Joe's. Wanted to take advantage of the early pressure that they had, but pushed a little bit too far. Now Donnie wants more, but he has to be careful he doesn't fall to the same issue. Critical Nugs just explodes there.
Yeah, good on Jack using that Mega Inferno Bomb, keeping vision on the rest of the map, but Meddlesome Maxi is hemorrhaging gold on the top side now, so Average Joe's still are able to keep themselves stable. The gold lead has shrunk just a little bit, but they are currently in the lead.
Yeah, it is 1.4k at the moment. They are down the Drake, which will be a little bit unfortunate here, not having that win con for them. However, with the pressure on the top side, with the dominance that Dom is finally showing on a champion that seems a little bit more comfortable than the Gnar here in the laning phase, they should have plenty of control to take this Rift Herald and really balloon this gold lead in the near future.
Argo wants more. They're coming back to the bot lane, charging up their W, but they aren't able to find anything, particularly with XMB's missiles being pointed at their face. Crazy Dog going to use this opportunity to clear out vision inside of that tri-bush. They are preparing for the dragon spawn in about 15 seconds, Alls, and we'll see whether or not Cosmic Genesis will want to try to contest this.
It's going to be so difficult to contest here, Nyarko. Jack, not really on any major breakpoints, is going to struggle in one-on-ones with Hexify. Archer XMP doesn't have the hostile takeover here, so they will need someone else to engage and force, but Donnie doesn't have the ultimate. It's going to be on Archer with the Crystal Arrow to find a pick here if they're going to go in.
Cosmic Genesis still want this neutral objective, though. They have already claimed a single dragon. And this could be their angle back into the game. Arrow gonna hit the right person. Viego stunned, and look at how the explosive cast scatters Average Joe's. Crazy Dog able to make it to safety, but Argo was not so lucky, and that is the angle that Cosmic Genesis needed. They are gonna pick up this dragon, and they are right back in the fight.
Yeah, the only option was the arrow, and it worked beautifully, picking out the one member that absolutely needed to be taken down to secure this Drake. And now, they have been stacking these Drakes very quickly. Only 11.5 minutes in, and we have to take in Nyarko. That is on track for a 21-minute Ocean Soul, which would be great on something like the Cassante, something like the Gragas, who want to be in those fights and just sustaining forever.
Maxi did not expect Hexify to be up here, then I think this is a pretty effortless tower dive, especially if Maxi wants to go out from beneath the tower with their all out. Not really sure why they decided to do that, but that's just more gold over to Average Joe's, and I am massively confused as to why they picked this Cassante if they're going to play it like this.
Yeah, I think Maxi, a little bit of disrespect on Dom, figured that this was going to be a fairly free lane in the same style as the Gnar was games 1 and 2. Bit of a rude awakening. Dom, much more competent on the Ornn, has been living up to the name. Dominant here. Up 10 CS, 3 kills to none. Has the fully completed Sunfire and will just continue to scale. On track to hit those ornaments fairly soon, as they are already level 10 here. Just looking great in this top lane.
Argo on the flank. Jack gonna have to flash back to safety. Teleport being channeled. Argo gonna continue to chase down the Ziggs. Will miss their W, and I think that means that the Yordle will be able to get to safety at just a sliver of health. Average Joe's actually burned quite a few resources right there. They get the flash out of Jax, but I don't know if it's worth it because Dom committed to teleport into this play, and while this is priority over the topside Rift Herald, this is only Herald number 2, and so usually not the most effective neutral objective to go for. Oh, is it? Holy
crap. This is still Herald 1. It's before 14 minutes, Nyarko.
Oh, you're right. Okay, never mind then. It's going to be hard for them to drop this and get plates is what I'll say, and it looks like eventually they're going to back off because that's the case.
Yeah, so no Herald 1 taken. Shelly is consigned to the Abyss, although I suppose she will be the one to charge even post 14. That being said, this time alone in the bot side for Critical Nugs is now resulting in a 30 CS lead, as Archer's just going to die here in the mid lane.
As the bailout has a little bit more time to try to make something happen, but will not be able to use it to the best effect. Crazy Dog does get blown up by Jack, though, and that truly is the power of Ziggs in this situation, because Average Joe's had to go so deep into melee territory to make something happen against Archer. They were all clustered for the Mega Inferno Bomb to land.
Yeah, here's the problem, though. Look at the bot side. Critical Nugs, pretty much AFK down there, got 4 plates solo, is going to get first turret gold here as well. So yes, Cosmic Genesis does finally get the Rift Herald, but it's too late for plates. And the gold distribution on Average Joe's looks so good right now. Hexify, 3 kills in pocket, already has the Proto Belt. The Xayah has the Kraken Slayer, is going to be backing with a ton of local gold in pocket, and will just continue to scale ahead and ahead of Archer, who is struggling right now, down 36 CS. I'm still liking the way the Joes are playing this. I think they've got the better position right now by a long shot.
100%. You look at that gold lead, and with the kill count as close as it is, you wouldn't think that'd be this massively in favor of Red Squad. But as you said, gold distribution has been fantastic, and Cosmic Genesis, in order to get back up on those kills, has had to sacrifice so much priority across the map. They're already down a tower at the 15-minute mark, could turn into more, and this is without that Rift Herald being dropped prior to the plates falling.
Yeah, if they had taken the early Rift Herald like they had the chances to from about the moment that it spawned, they could have had even more gold in pocket. Dom could have broken this top turret, made use of Maxi's many missteps in the top lane, but instead they focused elsewhere, and they found leads, so I don't think they're going to be too angry about it, as Crazy Dog's looking for more here, finds the Nakamata too.
Yeah, great charm as well. 2 members going to be CC'd, and that means that Hexify is able to go pretty deep into enemy territory. Jack has finally made it over to the play, but they realize there's not really much that Cosmic Genesis can force for right now. There's still 30 seconds for Average Joe's to try to take a reset, but I will note that their health bars are low, and Cosmic Genesis are intent upon getting themselves another dragon to really accelerate the pace of this game and hopefully bring it back.
Yeah, and in service of that Drake, they can likely take this mid turret with the Rift Herald, with the Ziggs bomb. They should be able to take this, pressure the Average Joes off of any movement towards the interior of the map here, and be able to take this Drake relatively freely, putting themselves, or continuing to keep themselves on this very early Drake track, unless the Average Joes can make some crazy moves here to keep them off of it.
Protocol Nugs still trying to make their way out of base. Is the perfect time for Cosmic Genesis to sweep in and clear out vision. Argo knows that they can't really approach. Crazy Dog doesn't have the quickness up either, and so this is going to be a tough one for Red Squad to try to force. I actually think that it might be in their best interest to back off and play passively for the time being, and then challenge for Soul, but at the same time, they do have that gold lane. They do have Hexify trying to wrap around, coming in from that top part of the map, looking for something. Teleports available for Meddlesome Maxi and Dom, and we see the one summoned by the Ornn. Looks like Meddlesome Maxi will be able to get the TP cancel, though. The problem is there's no real way for the K'Sante to get to safety either, and so this will be a 4v4 around the Dragon, and meanwhile, that 1v1 topside is going totally in favor of Dom. Here comes Hexify trying to find a squishy member. Jax taking below half health, will be blown up. Here comes the bailout, but it's too little too late. Akali goes crazy, picks up a double-double. Archer tries to flash to safety, has the ghost for the mobility to try to find a way out of this alcove, but Critical Nugs is on top of them. Argo trying to find an angle as well, uses the Heartbreak to close the gap, and that is a disaster. 4-0, or 4-1 in favor of Average Joe's.
And just such a strange situation and a strange decision from Cosmic Genesis. That was about the slowest Drake take I have ever seen. They were hitting it for a solid 30 seconds there while that fight was developing. That gave plenty of time for the Average Joes to back out through their jungle, regroup. Even with the canceling of Dom's TP, they still had plenty of advantages. Hexify being able to get in there, use that perfect execution so beautifully, and lock down these health bars from the start just made it impossible for the Average Joes to do anything but dominate that fight.
Another win con gone. Cosmic Genesis is going to have to delay their attempt at a
Maxi's
soul,
gone
and
too,
meanwhile, but also Maxi's just going to die again. Hexify lands their E, and that's about all they wrote. Jack is going to throw out a Mega Inferno Bomb, but it's really just there for show. You want to see the pretty particle effects, and Average Joe's rolling this game, and this is the most dominant we've seen either of these teams in a match so far. I was not expecting this whatsoever out of Red Squad.
No, not in the slightest. You really, really felt,
Oh no,
looking at the early week 1, that Cosmic was the better team, but right now they have just been taken to the cleaners here. Average Joe's clearly in control from the word go. 12 kills to 5, a 6k gold lead at 19 minutes. We are in the Baron waiting room right now, Nyarko, because unless Average starts making missteps in the same way that Genesis did in Game 2, they should be able to clean this one out.
but remember what I was saying from game number 2, right? I think that with teams that are mistake prone, they just have to wreck the early game and get out to a league that basically you cannot throw away. And I think that Average Joe's has kind of gotten there, honestly. It's going to take multiple shutdowns, multiple neutral objectives for Cosmic Genesis to find their angle, and they can't even bank on one lucky fight around a 4th dragon to get themselves soul and hopefully use that as their win con. They've been interrupted on that stat as well, and with being 5k behind only 20 minutes into this one, it means that if they make a mistake, and they've been proven to be very prone to doing so from ahead or behind alls, this will be Baron Nashor. This will be a 10k gold lead, and that will be the end of the series.
Yeah, and the problem, beyond all of that, and there are many problems for Cosmic Genesis, but beyond all of the problems right now is the fact that Cosmic doesn't have a carry right now. Jack, yeah, he's got 2 kills, but the mini Inferno Bomb barely touches Dom. Archer Archer's down 50 CS, has a coal in inventory that's still not been completed. Critical Nugs has 2 fully completed items, and even if Archer does get to those points, Hexify has 7 kills. Hexify can just remove Archer from the face of the earth before the Ash even has the chance to think about pressing Flash. There's just
Well,
no real conditions for them to do anything.
I will say that we doubted a Ziggs last game, and they eventually managed to scale up and take things over. But yeah, this is a massive deficit. Hexify is an absolute monster, and the ornaments are starting to come in, and so there really is not going to be a power spike that Cosmic Genesis gets that is in any way not matched by what Average Joe's is doing. They're in such a good position.
Absolutely. Question for you now, Nyarko. Who gets the first ornament here? And why is it Akali?
The joking answer is Ornn gets the first ornament, obviously. But yes, I think that Akali should be the one to pick it up. They have the Magi Soul Stealer as well, providing any little bit more burst or resources to this champion basically will set them up for success. And look at this, already a brilliant pick going down onto XMB, the stun from the Viego going to follow up into a Call of the Forge God. Argo already dead, and now there's no damage for Cosmic Genesis to play off of. There goes the Renata Glass. Bailed out by the bailout for just a little while, but that really is just time spent stewing in your own pain, as now Average Joes are able to move towards the Baron Nashor.
Yeah, they are going to lose this bot turret. Meddlesome Maxi splitting, staying alone on those side waves, is able to get a little bit of gold back in pocket, but it's going to be at the cost of this Baron unless Donnie can create miracles here. So instead, Cosmic is going to peel away, is going to look for this Drake, try and get themselves back on track for Soul Point here in about 5 minutes. And with the backs coming out from Average Joe's, looks like they will do so successfully.
Yeah, Cosmic Genesis getting a tower and the dragon here honestly is pretty solid for them. They're still trading away a massive win condition, but given the fact that they lost that fight in the mid lane, this is about the best that they could hope for. They will struggle with wave clear outside of Jack, so that's something to watch out for. So you're basically looking to, I think, go down multiple lanes for Average Joes. You want to keep the Ziggs constantly on their toes, using their time not to knock down your minions, but rather to rotate over to wherever you're pressuring next.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see Jack having to use that Inferno Bomb just to manage waves, to try and buy more time, to cut down on what this Baron buff timer can do for Average Joes. But they've got all 5. They can split 1-3-1 very happily. And with no more Inferno Bomb for the next about 45 seconds, as you said, the wave manipulation, the wave management from Cosmic Genesis is going to become more and more difficult.
Cosmic Genesis have a few more minutes in the sun before they are relegated to playing tower defense. Right now, Average Joes look like they're just going to be jamming the vast majority of their forces down in the mid lane, but they have already gotten their ideal push scenario. They have isolated the Ziggs up topside to try to contend with Hexify, which we already know is a huge mismatch in favor of Average Joes, and the rest of the team is just able to besiege this mid tier too.
Oh no, Hexify's going to catch XMB here.
Oh,
You can't
no.
walk out the ward when you don't know where the Akali is. Goodbye, Renata.
Yeah, and unfortunately, XMB will not even be able to get a really good fadeaway ultimate off. They will just have to back off from this tier 2 at this point in time. If Average Joes decide to cluster like this, they're going to get hit by the quickness, and look at the follow through. Argo hits everybody with their Heartbreaker, and while Crazy Dog dies for their efforts, this opens up the map so beautifully for Average Joes, as now Meddlesome Maxi has to deal with a 2v1 without a tower in the bot side of the map. They use their all out to get to safety, but this is more gold flowing over to Red Team.
Yeah, and Hexify continuing to expand here. 22 pages in that book, looking like a true librarian in the mid lane. I mean, you cannot defeat the Akali with just 1 or 2 members. You need the full squad there to lock her down at this point. And with the way that this Cosmic Genesis squad is pulled across the map by the great macro of Average Joes, that's never going to happen. Hexify is, short of a mistake of their own making, nigh untouchable right now.
9,000 gold up, ornaments now distributed onto Critical Nugs, Hexify, and Dom, and there really is no way back from this, unfortunately. Cosmic Genesis, even with the Dragon Soul, I think are only going to be accelerating the game state towards an Elder Dragon for Average Joes to pick up, and that's just not a place you want to be.
No, not in the slightest, with Hexify already prowling around this jungle, looking for another free injection of gold from XMB. Blood in the water like a shark here. It, we have maybe 1, 2 team fights left before this game is decided here, Yarko.
Yeah, it's going to be 2 team fights if Cosmic Genesis wins one of them. It is going to be 1 team fight if Average Joe's wins one of them.
Well,
And
Cosmic wants
it
to
looks
find it
like
here.
with yeah, but with Archer already using that Enchanted Crystal Arrow, not really finding much off of it, this is looking pretty darn good for Crazy Dog. Going in with the quickness, they have Hexify at their back, XMB already blown up, will try to berserk multiple members of Red Squad, but it's still not enough to take down these champions, and now the Zaya is getting in on the feed train, a double-double on the map between them and Hexify, and this is looking like about it. Meddlesome Maxi, the last one left alive, hiding inside of their own base.
Did someone want to explain to me how in the world Argo survived that with 20 health? It's incredible how close these fights were for Average, just barely able to keep everyone alive. And with the ace here, I mean, this should be the game. This should be the series, Yarko. I don't think Cosmic can save this, but XMB is certainly going to try.
Cosmic Genesis just fell apart over the course of these 2 games. Speed running 23-minute victory in game number 1 apparently meant nothing. They blew their load, they ran out of gas, whatever term you want to use. They just were unable to deal with the Average Joe's comeback, and what a comeback it was.
Yeah, great job there. Closing out with a 21-7 victory, an 11K gold lead, and what felt like a match that Cosmic never had a chance to come back in. I mean, yes, some of this can be attributed to the mental failures of Cosmic Genesis after a very rough game too, but you have to give credit to the Average Joes here. That game 1 was a game that they should have won. There was enough mistakes made by Genesis that they should have been able to take advantage of it and win the game. And the fact that they didn't meant, at least for us, we thought that this was going to be a very done series. Instead, they consolidated, they regrouped, and they came out swinging in game 2. And here in game 3, really just an exclamation mark on it. I I may have misjudged this team. I thought that this was going to be a fairly clean 2-0 for Genesis coming into the match, but I've been proven very, very wrong.
And I think that we have many more expectations to be shattered throughout the rest of the BOL Platinum Division. We got a group of killers on the loose here, alls, and I definitely want to see more of both Average Joe's and Cosmic Genesis. The scaling certainly a factor here throughout the rest of the season. We have some of these teams that struggle early on, absolutely put on the gas and roll people come late, and so super, super excited to see where things develop from there. That being said, we got no more content for you tonight. I'm about to go off, play some games, watch some sumo. I begged Caddy to let us go raid Midnight Sumo after this, so come along if you enjoy some sumo wrestling. I know that I do. But that is it. As per usual, make sure to drop a follow here. We have broadcasts going out basically every day of the week here on the Blue Otter League. Every single one of our leagues is full of teams looking to make their mark, and they're all doing so well so far. Many highlight moments have already been made, and we want you along for the ride for even more. We really could not have done this without you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, have a good night.